and I said, Lord, be with them today, because today's their grand opening. Be with them. I thought, what a wacko prayer. He's already promised to be with us. We need to let the prayers of the Bible instruct us how to pray. So let me just point out 3 things about this prayer that you already know, but I'll just highlight for you, which is why my job is the easiest job on the planet. I just have to tell you what you've read. So here's the first thing about what you've read. This prayer is selfless. Selfless. Now think about that. Think about that. He's in prison. If I'm in Bowden because of my work and I get an email out to you, you know what I'm going to say? Pray that I'll get out of this place. He doesn't ask them to pray that. Crazy. He doesn't pray, get me out of here. He doesn't pray, the food sucks. Can you do something and get me something to eat? He doesn't talk about his health. He doesn't pray about any of that. That blows my mind when you think about where he is. He prays about them. That's what he prays about. What's on his heart most is their spiritual condition, not his physical condition. That struck me as I began to read this. And we live in a generation where we're preoccupied with self. Let me take a selfie. And I'll post it, and you get to see how good looking I am some days. And but when you're preoccupied with self, you forget about the proper perspective when it comes to prayer. It's about the Father, it's about other people. Paul prays very selflessly, and it's interesting that he gives them this information, he teaches them, and he's more concerned now about praying that truth into their hearts than getting out of prison. He instructs them, and he prays for them. Now, the second thing I want you to notice, which you've already noticed, is this prayer is spiritual, and most of these points, they fly into each other. It's selfless, but it's spiritual. Striking is the absence, as I said, of material issues. He's not praying about his health or his finance or a new car or a new husband or wife or partner or that the Oilers would win a hockey game. He doesn't pray about any of that stuff. And it's not that material things are wrong, because in the Lord's Prayer, he did teach us to pray for our daily bread. That's material provision. But even in the Lord's Prayer, it's way down the line. And it's interesting, if you would examine, as I did, my prayer over the last week, it's alarming how much of it has to do with just material stuff and how little has to do with these deep things that Paul talks about here, these spiritual issues. Why we need the prayers of the Bible to instruct us in our praying is that what most of us think we need is different from what we really need. What we think we need is often very different from what we really need. Just look at this prayer for a minute, what he prays. He prays things like this. I pray that out of his glorious riches, he might strengthen you with power in your inner being. That God would strengthen you in your inner being. Think about that. You know, we pray a lot about our outer being, and that's not wrong, and we'll do that today. We'll pray for healing. But do you give much time to praying about your inner person, the real you? It says somewhere in the Bible that outwardly we're falling apart. Inwardly, we should be being renewed every day. That's true. Inwardly, this is the best time of my life. I wouldn't trade it for any age. I turned 70 this summer, and I couldn't wait to turn 70. Couldn't wait. You guys, it gets better the more you walk with Jesus. Hope gets stronger. They fall into each other, but specific. It's specific. I've already pointed this out to you. And I thought about that because I thought about the way we often pray. 2 words, be with. Lord, be with that person. Lord, be with my kids. Lord, be with. What does that mean? I did it yesterday. I'm driving by home church and I'm coming here and I said, Lord, be with them today because today's their grand opening. Be with them. I thought, what a wacko prayer. He's already promised to be with us. Didn't he? Or did I read that wrong? I read it right, thank you. I thought so. It says, lo, and even high in an airplane, I am with you always to the very end of the age. So why am I praying be with these people? He's with them. So before I parked my car in the parking lot here, I had it figured out, and I said, Father, tomorrow at home church, I want to make this specific. Would you fill that place with your presence? That it would be unmistakable when people walk in. Father, in that new facility, would your name and your word always be highly exalted? Father, would you see today that Pastor Jacob has your words on his lips? Father, would you also provide for them materially because they got to pay their debt like we had to pay ours here? And that was a way better prayer than God be with them. Think about how you pray. What are you really asking God for? What do you really want God to do? This is a God that can do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine. So my question to you is, do you pray big prayers? You're coming to a big God. Bring big stuff to him. When you come to a king, you don't ask for small things. God, do immeasurably more in my kids, my grandkids, in my friends' lives, in our church, in our community, in your church around the world. Do more than we could ever ask or imagine and make it specific. These prayers help me pray. Hopefully a bit more selflessly. Hopefully more spiritually. And hopefully specifically. This is not an impractical prayer. It's not.